let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of a black revolution and why black people have a right to take what's theirs. You can read the platform in the program. It's a basic program, and it simply says exactly what black people have been crying for 400 years. One, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our own black communities. Two, we want full employment for our people. Three, we want an end to the robbery of the black community by the white racist businessmen. Four, we want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. Five, we want decent education that teaches us about the true nature of this racist, decadent system. An education that teaches us about our true history and our role in the society and the world today. Six, we want all black brothers to be exempt from military service. Seven, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. 8, we want all black brothers and sisters held in federal, county, state, city, jails, and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial. They've been tried by all white juries who have no understanding of the average reasoning man in the black community. Number 9, we just want the courts to make sure we have peers on the jury of people from the black community as defined by their jive constitution, the so-called United States. 10, a summary with the major political objective. That is, we want land, and bread, and housing, and clothing, and education, and justice. And we want peace. The major political objectives, we want a black plebiscite, the UN, black colonial subjects will participate in dealing with, analyzing, projecting politically upon the racist atrocities that have been committed against black people in this nation.
1955 is the start of the boys' boycott, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. So we bought a TV to keep in touch with what was going on in our home state. But my mother used to get so mad when she would see the police beating and brutalizing people. She used to get so mad and she would run over and turn off the TV, and she would come back and sit down, and she would turn around and look at me and says, "Boy, don't you ever let nobody do that shit to you." I was taught never to take BS from people, you know, or racial slurs or whatever. So every day he would see me fighting. Most of the time I win, but sometimes I will lose. One day he comes over to me and says, "Bill, man, you can't fight every day. You have to pick your battles." That's a lesson I learned from him, but this is what he did. He never was an outspoken person, but when it came time for him to be in the spotlight, he raised his fist and let everybody know he stood for black unity in the community.
I joined about January 1967, 3 months after the inception of the organization itself in Oakland, California. It was a period of volatile situations within the United States that created conditions for the Black Panther Party to come to rise. Of young people all across the country who were feeling the same kind of pain and suffering that was being perpetrated by the authorities, and particularly those on the front line who were the occupiers in our community, the police department.
When I graduated from high school, my English teacher gave me a book to read, the autobiography of Malcolm X. I went up to a rally and I was listening to what the Panthers speakers were saying. It was more or less what Malcolm was saying.
We were a global movement. Our agenda was a class analysis. We considered ourselves early on as being Marxists. As we matured politically, we understood that in fact Marx was a dialectical materialist. So as scientific socialists, we embraced the ideology of dialectical materialism, which was the guiding message and a vehicle that moved our organization forward.
Well, you had those who came to the party who came from a black nationalist perspective. So they were educated when they came into the party. You know, I myself come from a little of that, being in the Black Arts Movement. But because the fact that the symbols of oppression, well, what you're seeing in America was all basically was white bigots So you took that nationalist perspective that was the white was the enemy, until you become educated that it was a class struggle, not a race struggle.
I joined the party when I was 17 and went through the training period that the Black Panther Party had. You just couldn't become a party member. You had to go from a 6 to 8 week study period where you studied books from Chairman Mao. You had to read books by Frantz Fanon. You had to read books by Che Guevara and Fidel Castro and other successful revolutionaries. And from there, I worked as a rank and file party member, selling the Black Panther Party newspapers, trying to educate and organize the people.
You got it, what it takes. Come get it, where you want it. Go get it. All the brothers in the street are willing to work it out.
Bobby Seale one evening was laying out the first edition of the paper. He did it on a typewriter and used a marker for the titles. And so I seen him doing it. I told him I could assist him to help him do it, improve the quality of it. And so I would go home and get my materials and come back. It took me about an hour to go home and come back. When I came back, they were impressed that I returned. And so they said, well, you seem to be committed. You've been came around. And we want you to be the revolutionary artist of the newspaper. And so that was initially my title, the revolutionary artist.
Us and limbo, how to get it on. It's quite simple, 3 stones from the sun. We need a piece of this rock. Indestructible soul. Answers to this prison, to the brothers in the street, schools, and the prisons. History shouldn't be a mystery. Our story's real history, not this story.
It was a reflection of politics. It was a reflection of the conditions that existed at the time. It was all of those things that you were struggling against, the obstacles that you were trying to overcome as a part of the art itself. And so that means that the art itself would not have existed in the context that it did if it had not been for the Black Panther Party itself.
A revolutionary artist is making art, but they're making it for the people, as opposed to trying to get paid. That would be the bottom line.
Yeah.
Art now is all about getting paid. What did your boy here sell his shit for at his auction? 200 million? His worth's worth 500 million, you know, but that's not what it's about. They were the first anti-racist black organization. Not being racist to be anti-racist, you know what I mean? And there was a place for us. They said, well, what should white people do? Well, they should start a White Panther Party and organize white people because we don't need them coming down in here running around in the black community. White people are our problem. The problem is these white people got their foot on our neck. Get it off. They're your people. You can talk to them. Okay. Good idea. We will.
Our organization was never a racist organization. We started from its inception working with progressive whites, the Peace and Freedom Party, working with members of the Communist Party, working with members of the Socialist Workers Party, working with people from the Hispanic community, Cesar Chavez and his farm workers, working with the Brown Berets, working with the Young Lords for the Puerto Ricans, working with the Asians. We were the first organization to make an alliance with gay rights in 1969 when nobody would touch those issues. I think it's the one thing that made us so dangerous to the government because we did organize across racial, gender, cultural lines.
We're all oppressed by the same corporations. We're all oppressed by the same system. We're all oppressed by the lying politician. We're all oppressed by the police, which is the military arm of the system.
We have always had a class analysis, and our politics were the politics of coalition. Our slogan was, one does not fight racism with racism, you fight racism with solidarity.
As you know, we have initiated a free breakfast for school children. The reason behind this is because we understand that our children go hungry. Because we understand that the pigs won't get up off their ass and give us no food. Because we understand that there's a oppressor. The Black Panther Party says that we're going to serve these children. We're going to feed them every morning. They get a full meal, grits, bacon, toast, eggs, everything they need for the whole day. We need the people's support. We need your action. We need your money. We need your donations. We need your time. The breakfast program is a program for the people and by the people.
We started one of our very first community programs, which was free breakfast for school children, which merged education and nutrition together. So we started feeding like hundreds and hundreds of kids in the geographical area that we lived in. We call ourselves the People's Army, and we serve the people body and soul. We just don't say that, we actually implement programs to serve people. The breakfast program fed kids in the morning before they attended school, and we found out that by leafleting in the community and going door to door, this was a big problem. So we implemented this small program, which took off like fire. How the program actually worked is that the mom and pop stores in the community would donate whatever they could. Say if you owned a store, a small store, and you couldn't donate that much, maybe you could donate a gallon of milk or 2 loaves of bread and a dozen of eggs a week. But if we go to like 10, 11 stores and they can do the same thing, we can feed something like 70, 80 kids per week on that. We had no other money except for money that people donated us through the community. Other programs we had was a SAFE program. This is a program that was brought to us by senior citizens. Back in those days, senior citizens would get their retirement money, their Social Security, or whatever they have at the first of the month. They were beaten, their purses snatched, the money taken away from them. So we started sending vans and cars to the senior satellite homes and picking them up around the first of the month and taking them to cash their checks and to go shopping and bringing them back safely. Now, this program was very successful. The seniors in the community really loved it, and it caught on throughout the country, as well as our free busing program to prisons. In our community, the unemployment, the economic situation is so bad that a lot of people take chances or do things they normally wouldn't do to raise money, and they become victims and they go to jail and they're sent away to prison. Say you're in Oakland. That don't mean that you're going to be in jail in Oakland. They might ship you across the state or 100 miles away, and a lot of times people don't have transportation to get to those locations. So as an effort to keep the family together, we provided a free busing program where people can get on this bus. Say we were going to San Quentin that particular week. People could get on that bus and ride, and all we would do is ask for donations. We had 10 free medical clinics across the country. We have 2 that's still open to this very day after 35 years. We had one in Seattle, Washington, and one in Portland, Oregon. They were manned by the community, and they stayed open all this time, and they're still serving the community right to this very day. We have something like 35 different programs that we helped establish. We had a free shoe program for people who didn't have shoes. We had free clothing programs for people who didn't have clothes. We had a free food program. Say your money ran short or something happened, you needed food before your payday came, you can call the Panthers up. We would make bags of groceries for you, and we would take them to you if necessary. We had liberation schools, alternative programs, charter schools, teaching people about Afro-American history. In 1973, we opened up a full-fledged school from 1st grade to 9th grade, and we had something like 200 kids attended every day. Our social programs were like a guideline of things that could be done, because we didn't get money from foundations. We didn't get money from the government to start these programs. These programs were started with kind of love and care for the community, and by people seeing it, they participated in that. They would come by our office and maybe give us $5. So people can look into the past and say, this is what the Panthers did. They did it without any support. We can do this. Even though resources have been cut off, unemployment is going to be rampant or is rampant, there's still things that can be done in the community. It's an example of what can be done when people unify on a grassroots level to achieve their goals. A lot of people think of the Black Panther Party as mainly a self-defense organization. We believed in self-defense, but in our 10-point program, that was number 7 on the list. There was other things that came before that, like decent housing, decent education, full employment, those type of things. But Because of the situation of the police, they were shooting and killing black people every weekend, and they would say it was justifiable homicide or we thought he had a gun. So that became a very viable program for us to start with. Huey Newton was a law student, and they found that we can carry guns openly if they wasn't loaded. So they started patrolling the community and following the police around, making sure that black people received their rights and wasn't brutalized. We only did that for a couple years, like from 1968 to 69. Other than that, we were all social programs, in the community. The traditional thing is to attack the leadership. So one, they had Huey Newton in jail. Two, they had Bobby Seale going to jail for different charges. Like in Chicago, 1968, they said he was in conspiracy to stop the Democratic Convention. Then later on, they had him on murder charges up in New Haven. Then the Eldridge Cleaver, they were trying to railroad him. But see, in the Black Panther Party, we're taught to organize. We are taught that one Panther equals 100 enemies. The leadership provides guidance, but any Panther can organize. You can drop us anywhere and we can organize. So they were afraid of a threat like that. So what they started doing is wholesale attacking our offices, arresting large amounts of Panthers, and sending us to court. But I want to point out to you, they lost every one of those cases. They lost the Huey Newton case. They lost the Bobby Seale case. They lost the Chicago case, the New York 21 they lost, the New Haven 18 they lost, but as a result, we spent a lot of time and energy trying to get those people out of jail. So what they started doing was murdering party members. Fred Hampton, Mark Clark in Chicago, Prentice Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins in L.A. By 1971, there was about 25 members of the Black Panther Party murdered and killed in the line of duty. That was a kind of a way to intimidate us, but you can't intimidate us because we're here to serve the people.
It's important that activists understand that revolution is a process, not a conclusion, and that our Black Panther Party did not make the revolution. We only helped promote the process. So it's not that the revolution has stopped. In fact, it is always moving. It's always happening. So ours was an unfinished agenda.
Overthrow the government, whoever is running it. I mean, he's a Democrat. It's not going to be a panacea. If it was going to make it a significant change, they wouldn't have given him all those millions of dollars to fight with. But it's good. I mean, for America to elect a black man president of the United States, it's a whole different thing. They never thought of that.
It is a great achievement coming from the fact that America is so racist, It is a great personal achievement, because there's so many black people who's been hung, railroaded to jail, and for a person who has an Afro-American background to be elected as a president, that says a lot. It says there's an opportunity there.
I don't think Obama, no other person, an individual, can deliver what is needed. I think that it's the masses of the people that have been engaged. If they demand the kind of accountability that we're talking about now, then yes, it is possible. But it will only happen if the masses of the people make their demands felt.
We might not have an office that says Black Panther Party, but we have members who are faithful to the ideology of the party, still doing work in the community.
I will guarantee you that if all these millions of people take to the streets for the long haul, as we did in the 60s, then you'll see change being a march being very abruptly.
Let's get it on. Let's get